newsroom. Are you carrying a slide? So.
Well, afternoon, colleagues. We're just doing a quick testing of sound to see that everything of ours is in order. Can you hear us? Bomi, are we fine? On Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Huh? Are we fine? Is the sound fine? You are watching the EFF press conference. Are we fine? The visuals, are they proper? Happiness all around? Is everyone happy? Okay, do we have everyone who's supposed to be here? Those journalists who are not here with us will be able to send their questions through to the EFF Media WhatsApp group, and we'll be able to read their questions in the room. We are coming to you live from the EFF headquarters in Braamfontein, the Revolutionary House, which is going to bring emancipation in our lifetime, economic emancipation in our lifetime. This is the EFF. We're coming to you live from Braamfontein. Abongile, I see you. I recognize you.
Thank you.
Nick, I see you. Okay, we're fine. Huh? Are you proper? Bumi, where are you seated? Are you fine? Siko, you're sitting. Are you fine? Okay. And then we don't have extra people in the room. We've got enough numbers, proper social distancing. Okay. Let's just get a sanitizer, one more sanitizer, and then we're fine. Yeah. Okay. We're fine? Okay. Are you able to move? Yes. Okay. Are you fine? The leadership is coming down soon. Are you fine? The visuals, are they fine? Can you hear the aircon? You switched it off? Okay. You're late. You're late. You are late. Very late. Comrades, the leadership has arrived. Funi? Fast. Yeah. Are we fine? Everyone is well positioned. No extra people in the room unless you're technical. Siko, please move that side as well, to the back. Okay, that's fine. Well, thank you very much, members of the media, colleagues. You are at the right place, at the Revolutionary House of the EFF. My name is Vuyani Pambo. I will chair the session of this press conference. On my far right is the Treasurer General, Ompile Maudwe. Next to her is the National Chairperson, Veronica Mente. And close to me here is the DSG, Popi Maelula. Next to the DSG is the Secretary General, Marshal Dlamini. On the right of the President is the Deputy President, Floyd Shibambu. We will accordingly start with the Commander-in-Chief and President of the EFF, Julius Malema, will take us through with a statement, and then from there on we'll take questions afterwards. Thank you very much, Commander-in-Chief.
Well, thank you very much, the spokesperson, officials, members of the media, and the people of South Africa and the continent. The Economic Freedom Fighters held the 3rd Central Command Team meeting of the 2nd National People's Assembly from the 3rd to the 25th of October 2020 at the Beechwood Conference Center to deliberate on the important political and organizational matters. The CCT meeting was the first meeting where members were physically present since the lockdown regulations were introduced as part of the efforts to curtail the rapid spread of coronavirus. While the CCT adopted a policy perspective that says that the local government elections and general elections must be synchronized. We also adopted a framework towards the 2021 local government elections, which will be finalized when we hold the EFF election strategy workshop. Our determination and focus is on preparations of the EFF for government because in 2021, the EFF will win a significant number of votes in different municipalities across the country. The CCT was appraised of the work of the EFF Labour Desk and the so many positive achievements it has achieved. Many workers who were unfairly dismissed and whose UIF payments were delayed have benefited from the work of the EFF Labour Desk. We call on all companies that have claimed the unemployment insurance fund for their employees to immediately pay workers what is due to them within the next 48 hours. The EFF will organize mass action against all companies that have claimed the UIF from the state and still have not paid the workers. Workers must contact the EFF to alert us of companies that have not paid the UIF, and we will visit them. Commissar Tlengiwe Mkhaliphi will resume the duty of heading the Labour Desk and ensure that it remains robust and the first line of defense for vulnerable workers. The CCT was also appraised of the establishment of the EFF Gender Desk under the guidance of the Deputy Secretary General, whose primary purpose is to take up programs on all gender-related matters. The Gender Desk has been involved in so many programs on issues of gender-based violence and made submissions to the parliamentary process of strengthening and mainstreaming legislation on gender-based violence. The CCT appreciate the courage and the determination of EFF ground forces and all provincial leaders who attended the EFF program in Senegal, Thabo Mofutshane region in the Free State. The EFF program in Senegal demonstrated that the EFF is the only solid, dependable and courageous revolutionary movement in South Africa. When cowards were afraid to confront the white terrorists and thugs who burned police vehicles and shot guns inside a court of law, the EFF took a correct revolutionary stance to stop the nonsensical conduct of the terrorists. We are engaged in this program because we know that the real intention of the white minorities protest in Senegal and many parts of South Africa is to undermine the long overdue land reform program, particularly expropriation of land without compensation. We will never abandon the expropriation of land without compensation program because it seeks to correct the injustice of the past of land thieves who took our land by force and reduced us, the rightful owners, into foreigners in our own land. The EFF will embark on a concerted program to defend the rights of farm workers because they are the most exploited section of society. The EFF branches will visit and engage with farm workers with the purpose of finding lasting solution to their suffering and problems. We know that the farm workers continue to be mistreated and abused by their employers, and will call for an end to the abuse and mistreatment of farm workers. As part of this program, we will table a draft resolution in Parliament proposing for an establishment of Commission of Inquiry into the conditions and the remuneration of farm workers. The EFF has been vindicated on the capture of those within the media who are used to fight the political opponents of the regime. We have long said that the South African media has people who masquerade as journalists while they are actually politicians. It is more concerning that there seems to be a trend of journalists using the media fraternity as a springboard to political appointments within the states. Ranjeni Munsami, a paid spy who now works as a political secretary in Treasury, has long shown that she is biased in her reporting. This was done so that she can secure a job within the state. Munsami still has undenied claims against her of receiving money from the intelligence slush fund. She has long history of being compromised and is a known member of ANC factions dating back to the days of Jacob Zuma. Former Daily Maverick journalist Sam Kokeli now works as a spokesperson in the Ministry of public enterprise. Mokokeli has turned a State Department into a personal PR company of Pravin Gordhan. The ministry releases media statement constantly defending Gordhan from his personal and political opponents. It is a blatant threat to media independence and impartiality when journalists actively canvass for jobs within the state by writing negatively about opposition parties, particularly the EFF. It reveals that there is no genuine media in South Africa, and we are engaged in a fight with politicians who do not want to rise within the ranks of political parties. Rather, they abuse their reach of media in order to enrich themselves. The EFF remains committed to the Pan-Africanist vision of Kwame Nkrumah of uniting the African continent, and we will be engaged in practical policy and legislative efforts which will bring Africans together. Before this, we ask that this thing must be changed, you see. We note that the South African Police Services and the National Prosecuting Authority have started arresting people accused of corruption and wrongdoing. Our demand is that the South African Police Service and NPA must not forget those who collapsed Steinhoff, leading to the government employees' pension fund forfeiting more than 20 billion of its investment. The SAPS must not forget the bank CEO who manipulated South Africa's currency for private benefits. The SAPS and NPA must also arrest people when they are ready to prosecute them instead of arresting people when they are not immediately ready for prosecution. The South African Police Services, NPA, and Special Investigating Unit must act decisively to recoup the monies lost due to PPE corruption. In all instances where government overpaid for PPE and other health-related services, these monies must be claimed back, and those involved in the inflation of prices must be held accountable. In doing so, the South African Police Services, NPA, SIU, and government must avoid the temptation of categorizing all black businesses that benefited from PPE as automatically corrupt. Decisive action must be taken against all companies that have done wrong, and companies that complied to the process and price regulations must be paid for the services they have provided. The EFF remains committed to the Pan-Africanist vision of Kwame Nkrumah of uniting the African continent, and will be engaged in practical policy and legislative frame efforts which will bring Africans together. Our vision in the immediate is on encouraging increased intra-African trade and socio-cultural interactions and relationships. Our immediate vision includes development of a common African legislative capacity which will pass common laws to protect the continent from super-exploitation and theft of resources by the global capitalist establishment. While we are committed to Pan-Africanism, we have realized that many companies and businesses in South Africa, particularly in the hospitality and agricultural industry, employ our African brothers and sisters from other parts of the African continent so that they can exploit them and not protect their labor rights. It is their long-held strategy of divide and conquer, because by exclusively employing our African brothers and sisters, the establishment causes a divide amongst Africans. We therefore call on all employers, inclusive of farms, retail stores, restaurants, hotels, the hospitality business, and the entire private sector, to ensure that a minimum of 60% of their employees are South Africans. The EFF labor desk in all parts of South Africa will visit different establishments to ensure that the employment of minimum 60% South Africans is a reality. This program is not a xenophobic, but aimed at guarantee protection of all employees in different sectors of the economy, because the establishment abuses the migration status of our brothers and sisters to violate basic labor and human rights on the basis of citizenship. The EFF program will not be hijacked by xenophobic and directionless opportunists whose narrow purpose ignores the reality that the division of Africans was engineered by the racist colonial system of divide and rule. We must channel all our energies towards the employers because it is them who employ our African brothers and sisters in their attempt to divide us. We must never direct our anger at vulnerable employees who are our African brothers and sisters. We reiterate our call for the unsealing of the CR17 documents. The continued secrecy practiced by Cyril Ramaphosa is concerning because it is likely that the donors found within the documents are beneficiaries of tenders, appointments within the state, and are in control of the policy perspective of South Africa. The most recent example of the dodgy relationship by the president is the Moy-Kloof development, which was endorsed by the president even though it was not BEE compliant, and there are concerns as to how the development was approved. This level of capture in which Ramaphosa's presidency was bought can only serve to further the white minority control of our economy and the dictating of the economic direction of the country by the elite few. The EFF will not retreat in our bid to unseal the CR17 documents and will take the battle to the highest court of the land. The CCT reflected on Ramaphosa's economic recovery and reconstruction plan and came to a correct conclusion that it is a shallow and will not alter the structural deficiencies and racial inequalities that define South Africa's economic ownership and control. Ramaphosa's economic recovery plan deliberately omits the land question, particularly expropriation of land without compensation. It further ignores the necessary focus on ownership and control of strategic sectors of the economy. Without fundamental change to the ownership and control of South Africa's economy, it will continue to exclude and super-exploit the black majority and Africans in particular. The EFF will soon present a detailed and alternative economic recovery plan which will provide workable solution on what is to be done. In the build-up to the local government elections, all EFF regions must hold Regional People's Assembly before the end of March 2021. Regions that will be permitted to hold the RPAs are strictly those who will have launched EFF branches in minimum of 90% of wards in the respective regions. The Secretary General will send the guidelines on all structures on process that must be pursued and adhered to towards the Regional People's Assembly. We call on all genuine members of the EFF to exercise maximum discipline in the build-up to and during RPAs. A special National Disciplinary Committee has been set up to deal with the breaches relating to the upcoming Regional People's Assemblies. Any member of the EFF who engages in disruptive and fraudulent conduct towards and during the RPAs will be swiftly and decisively dealt with. EFF remains the only hope for the hopeless masses and the only weapon in the hands of the oppressed and exploited masses of our people. It is on this basis that we will do everything in our power to protect and defend the integrity of our organization and will not allow opportunities to disrupt its proper functioning. No member of the EFF is entitled to any leadership position. It is the sole prerogative of members of the democratically elected, their leaders, and no one shall impose themselves into the leadership without the approval of the members. The EFF condemns the Nigerian government's violence against its own citizens and calls for decisive condemnation of this violent act by the African Union. We also condemn the killing of children in Cameroon, which continue to be led by the illegitimate puppet of France, Paul Biya, who has been president since 1982. All Africans must reject and disassociate from state-sponsored violence like it's happening in Nigeria and Cameroon. The youth of Nigeria must not retreat in their militancy and must fight until victory. The people of Cameroon must rise against the puppet regime of Paul Biya and usher in a dispensation that will respect all people of Cameroon, including those that come from Ambazonia. We call for maximum stability in Zimbabwe and condemn the Zimbabwean government's continued mistreatment of its people. We are concerned about Zimbabwe because it is dismally failing to regain stability and cannot even re-establish its currency and monetary system. We demand a stable government in Zimbabwe which respects all its citizens and work collectively to revive its economy, provide jobs for the people of Zimbabwe, and defeat poverty. We do not have any expectation on the USA elections because whoever wins will continue with the same US agenda which has no respect for other people in the world. Whoever wins elections in the US will continue with militarism, establishment and sustenance of military bases in different parts of the world, and imperialism which does not respect other people's lives and freedom. We call on the people of South Africa to exercise maximum caution and protective measures against the coronavirus. The reality is that there is still no cure and no vaccine for corona, and the most dependable measure to limit its rapid spread is social distancing, wearing of masks, and recurrent hygiene practice, which include washing of hands. The people of South Africa must stop behaving as if corona is gone. It is still here, and the second wave of infection will kill a lot of people. We must stay safe and always protect our health. Lastly, we congratulate Shudufadzo Musida for being crowned Miss South Africa 2020. What is inspiring about Shudufadzo Musida is the fact that she comes from a village in the rural areas of Limpopo where there are very little opportunities. Despite this, our Miss South Africa 2020 is not just beautiful, she also cherishes education. She holds a Bachelor of Social Sciences degree in philosophy, politics and economics from the University of Pretoria and currently enrolled for an honors degree in international relations at Wits University. We wish her well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commander-in-Chief. We'll now take hands. For those journalists who are not here, the WhatsApp group, the EFF media group is open. It's the WhatsApp group, they know it. They can send their questions there. But we'll start with the questions in the room. We'll give you a chance to send your questions in the WhatsApp group. Okay, let's just follow the row. You just go this way. When you're done, Natasha, please switch off your mic. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, it's Natasha Perry here from SABC News. Mr. Malema, you just spoke of the second wave of coronavirus infections, and we've heard medical experts and warning of a second wave, another return of coronavirus infections. Seeing what we saw over the weekend, where authorities had to close in on nightclubs that were operating beyond the curfew time and people not social distancing, would you say that nightclubs must now be closed and, restaurants? Second question, you're appearing in court on the 28th and the 29th this week. You vowed to bring Johannesburg to a standstill. But seeing that Johannesburg is an economic hub of, the country, are you not worried about the economic implications of this, seeing that people also, our economy is still recovering from COVID-19?
Bongile Dumako, SABC News. Good afternoon. I just want to find out, Natasha partially covered me on the coronavirus part, but the other weekend when you guys were in Senegal, talking about social distancing and wearing of masks and all of those things, with your members that were flocking into Senegal, we didn't see that much of social distancing happening. And again, in court, last time you appeared, you did make an appeal to your members to come and be there at the Randburg Magistrates Court to support you and Mr. Ndlozi. Now, again, are you not worried then, looking at the fact that the numbers continue to rise and you just made a call now that people must sort of continue to social distance and wear their mask and everything like that. And then number two, I wanted to find out, it's kind of slipped my mind now. I wanted to find out then, again, when you were in court the last time in Randburg, you did make mention of the fact that the policeman in question, if I'm not mistaken, his name is Johannes Venter, needs to apologize to you. And of course, the state needs to apologize to you for what happened to the both of you. And as Mr. Ndlozi. Why on earth would you want to see the state apologizing to you? If you could be able to expand on that a bit and tell us really the reasons behind your having felt that you needed to be, offered an apology. Thank you.
Mr. Malema, Nicholas Bayer here from Newsroom Africa. I want to talk about this. Thanks. Mr. Malema, Nicholas Bayer from Newsroom Africa. I want to find out from you the Commission of Inquiry into the working and living conditions of farm workers. Will that include the terms of reference that you're going to ask for? Will it include looking into rural safety and rural safety completely in rural areas? I'd also like to find out if you can extrapolate on Peter Ketse and Fani Mokwena, their resignations from Parliament that had to do with their own personal reasons, if the politics were involved in any way, shape or form. And humour me for this last one. I mean, journalists are surely allowed a life after journalism. Once upon a time, you were comrades with a guy called Pule Mabe, who was also a journalist like us once upon a time, very, very long ago. So is it just Sam Kokeli and Ranjani Munsami that you're referring to and that you are pouring scorn on? Or generally speaking, are we yesterday's children, journalists? Once we're here, we must stay in this profession. Thank you.
Hi, Lisa Gatandra, News 24. Just a couple of questions from me, Mr. Malema. And the first question is around the standoff between the EFF and the ANC in Polokwane during the Section 25 hearings. I just wanted to find out what your reaction is, what the EFF, if the EFF at all discussed this. You speak of displaced anger towards vulnerable employees. I'm wondering if that at all is extended to ENCA reporters, especially given what happened during your Clicks protest. I remember speaking to the chair about it. And also, just two-pronged, I also want to find out if the apology by Dr. Ndlozi for his tweet around the treatment of women during that time, was it after discussions with the leadership, or what was your reaction to his tweet? My third question is, there's been a lot of rumor about the president addressing us this week because of the increase of COVID-19 cases. I want to know, obviously the EFF was against the reopening of the economy, but I wanted to know if what the EFF wants to hear from the president around lockdown. And in terms of the elections next year, have you identified any metros or any municipalities that you will be targeting or that you want to take over, and the reasons for this? And also, did the CCT make any guidelines in terms of how you will choose your councillors going into the elections? And the last one is, since your protests in Senegal, there's been a lot of analysts, political analysts, who've described your behavior as anarchist, fascist, reminiscent of Terre Blanche. If you could just give me your reaction to this. Thank you.
Thank you, President.
I'm going to forget some of these things. You have to come back and remind me.
Sure.
Well, the nightclubs are not opened. So there is no regulation that opens nightclubs. So any nightclub that opens, it's illegal and must be shut down. And the minister must not think twice about it. We say so because there will never be social distancing or taking some form of measures to be safe in a nightclub type of a setup. There are restaurants that, what's happening now? Now, there are restaurants that, pretend to be nightclubs. I mean, restaurant. But at night, they turn into nightclubs. I think we need to look into that as well, because it is nightclubs, it is funerals, it is churches that easily spread this killer disease. And we understand that our people are, in a very difficult situation now. They've been under lockdown for quite some time. They are missing that space, but we have to act in a manner that we save life, and we need to do that. My brother, the picket lines are completely a different terrain. And therefore, there is no formula for picket lines. And people cannot be in the picket line in a form of social distancing. And it's unfortunate that we exist in a terrain where from time to time we have to go to the picket lines. And we don't do so out of our own creation. It is the establishment that forces us to go to the picket lines. And when you are there, anything is possible. We know very well that people have actually said it's difficult to run with masks. And at the picket lines, we are permanently running because we are protesting and all manner of things. So I won't promise that there will be any mask or any social distancing at the picket lines. It's practically impossible. And we're not going to sit back and allow the establishment to do as they wish, because there are regulations of social distancing and all manner of things. We are forced to come out of our houses. We are forced to compromise our safety measures, our health safety measures, because the establishment behaves in a manner that it must be confronted, and it is very unfortunate. And that's why we have seen that in Senegal. We have seen it at the court, at EFF court appearance in Randburg. We have seen it at the Bushiri's court appearance, because those are picket lines. People are angry, people are on the streets, and you can't be saying to them, no, be careful, when they are prepared to confront a gun, worse with a disease they can't see. So I think the national chair tried when we were in Senegal, and she almost became an enemy. There and there, they told her, it's not going to happen. I must stand here, and my comrade must stand there. We're standing shoulder to shoulder against the regime. There is no EFF that is bringing Johannesburg to a standstill. It is the state that brings Johannesburg to a standstill, because you cannot charge the leadership for pushing a police officer. Police officers are required from time to time to develop thick skins. But we are charged because we pushed a white police officer, and whites are untouchable in South Africa. So Fenter owes us an apology, because you can't stop me from attending my mother's funeral. You can't. You must go and read Zinzi's affidavit. Is there in the docket, where she says she would have actually have done worse if anyone had tried to stop her. But also at funerals, the emotions are very high. And therefore, a person who knows how our funerals are conducted as Africans, they will know that funerals, by their own nature, the emotions are very high. You know, in funerals, the brother there, Nicholas, at the funeral of Africans, at the end, the MC apologizes. He says, I apologize if I've stepped on the toes of anyone, because the MC appreciate that because of emotions being high here, I might have unwittingly stepped on someone's toe. So even if no one came to me, I must still apologize and say, I'm sorry if anyone got offended while I was driving the program here. Understandably so, because emotions are high. So if a person treats you in a particular way, worse at the graveside, you ought to understand that here, people are not being themselves. They are in a different emotional state. And someone who understands Ubuntu, I don't know what is Ubuntu in Afrikaans. Fenter, if he knew what Ubuntu is, he would have appreciated that the situation and the place we found ourselves in required of all of us to respond in a particular way. So that's how much he owes us an apology for having tried to prevent us from burying our own mother. A person who gave birth to us and made us to be what we are today. Commission of Inquiry on Rural Safety, all the living conditions of the farm workers, including their salaries and where they stay, must be looked into. People think that people who live in worse conditions are found in the informal settlements. It's not true. People who live in worse condition are found in the farms. No electricity, yet the boss has got electricity. No toilet, yet the boss has got a toilet. No schools, sometimes child labor. Someone must explain to me, why is ZZ2 treating his workers the way he's doing in Polokwane? He's such a big farmer with a lot of money. Winnie Mandela went to that farm, I think in the late 90s or so. And she complained about the conditions of the workers in the ZZ2 farms. The ANC condemned her because ZZ2 was financing them. Many of them are in the pockets of ZZ2. Why that guy treats the workers the way he's doing, I don't understand. With all the money he has, and they live in fear, not because they are scared that someone is going to come from outside and kill them. They are scared of the same people they are ill-treating in the farms, because they know that you cannot ill-treat them forever. One day they are going to react. So we need to investigate the conditions of the farm workers, and we need to come up with clear, binding recommendations that will tell everyone, for you to have a farm, these are the conditions you must adhere to. Otherwise, the farm must be closed. People are helping themselves in the bushes. In the informal settlement, some municipalities now are beginning to put some toilets. We have toilet scandals because municipalities are putting some, some VIP toilets or long drop toilets or things like that. It is not allowed in the farms. It is doable. For you to say, I've got a farm, you must have an irrigation system. You must have the tractors. You must have the crawl. You must have all of this for you to be a farmer. Amongst other things which you must spend money on is the living conditions of the farm workers. If you cannot give them a proper accommodation, then no worker must live at the farm. Those farmers must be transported, they must stay in their own places. If you cannot provide clean water, what type of racism is this? What type of inhuman conduct is this? Where you sit with your wife and your children, drink water and have electricity 5-10 meters away from your house. There are people without water and they are not allowed to drink with you. That must be dealt with. It must be dealt with. Someone was saying to me, the big farmers know how to treat their farm workers. I said, that's nonsense. It's not true. They are big because they are the most exploiting people. One of the things we are going to be pushing a members' a private bill on is on the rental of farms by the previous owners of the same farms which were bought by government. It's not here in the statement. A very critical resolution we took, that once a government buys a farm for the community, if the community wants to rent the farm, can't rent it to the same, to the previous owner. There must be some, what do we call that? Period. Cooling off period. If you are the previous, how come we give the Malema person 1 billion? He doesn't even move for 2 days. Nothing changes material. He remains in the same farm and then begins to pay the rent on the same farm. And before you know it, there are many CPAs. They sponsor parallel CPAs, they divide people, and then they say, no, I'm not paying that rental because I don't know which CPA, which one is which one. They sponsor divisions amongst African people in those farms, which were bought for communities by government. So we are saying we want to sponsor a member's private bill which makes it illegal for the same farmer to rent the farm that was bought from him by government. Peter Casey left Parliament on personal reasons, worse on health issues, which we are not in a position to disclose. Fana Mokoena is a member of the Central Command Team. He was there yesterday. He got some lucrative international opportunity in his specialty, in his area of specialty, and he thought he needed to pursue that a greener pasture. And we wish him well. But he remains one of us. He was there yesterday, 2-3 days with us. You know, you always say to us, you must choose if you want to be a politician or you want to be a businessman. And then you come here and say, should we die journalists? You must choose. But worse, you become a journalist in the space where you were reporting. I mean, you become a government employee in a space where you were reporting. You were defending the establishment, defending the regime, and attacking anyone who attacks those people. And then the following day, you go and work there. I mean, it is journalists themselves who must be worried about that. What does this do to journalism? But if you live as a journalist, and then you become a pilot, and then you fly planes or a chopper or anything, it has got nothing to do with what you did in your previous line of duty. So I really don't understand. I said to you, Ranjeni Munsami is a politician masquerading as a journalist. All of you screamed at me. She now confirmed it. She disappointed you. You can't be a political secretary without being a politician. What politics are you going to write about if you are not a politician? She has taken a political office after she wrote articles and articles in defense of the establishment. And you think that the next one who's going to write like her, we must be sympathetic and say, no, she's objective and all of that. No. We told you a long time ago, she's not a journalist. There is a ESCOM guy, man, I forget his name. Yeah? Manchanja. I thought I can't pronounce his name. He has got difficulty pronouncing my son's name. That tribalist. So my son's name is Venda, so Manjanja can't pronounce Munjez. He struggles. I saw him doing some analysis on behalf of Daily Maverick and wanting to mention my trust, and I named it after my son. I couldn't pronounce it, the tribalist. He only pronounced words that are of his tribe. So he's working for ESCOM now. ESCOM falls under Praveen. He was using Daily Maverick to fight Praveen's battles. Mukokeli is there. And Mukokeli, we don't know if he's a spokesperson, because he says he's a PR relationship and this and that. He's trying to find a fancy word for his title. So, those are the people who wrote about us in defense of Praveen. In defense of Praveen. You know, that lady who's working for Begitel, she's a journalist, right? But her field was not much more into these battles we're engaged in. So when you see her, you are like, maybe it's an upward mobility. But for a journalist who wrote and defended this man and did everything in her power to defend this man, goes immediately after defending to the man. Those were not articles. Those were job application forms. That was a CV. They were writing a CV. And now when we look at you guys, we like, is she writing a CV also, this one, or is she being genuine? Otherwise, we are going to see her tomorrow working from Balula. So, I mean, Pule Mabe grew up in politics, took career, he did journalism at school. And even when he was at school, he was an activist of politics. And then went to work at Mail and Guardian. He didn't come to politics as an employee. He came to politics as a leader in his own right, elected by the structures of the ANC Youth League. Look at me now. I'm now defending Puli. You see the things you make me do. So he must explain himself. But the reality is that he came through the ranks and he didn't have to apply to the same person he was writing article in defense of. He was elected. So he didn't write any CV. If anything, he wrote his political career. I think the EFF was irresponsible in Polokwane. Extremely irresponsible. The people came in much earlier and they occupied the seats. It is not about which parties inside, because we don't want parties inside. We want citizens of South Africa. The EFF should have allowed itself to sit outside because it acted irresponsibly and came late. And I don't understand why Bongo and parliamentarians allowed that nonsense to happen. A disruption of parliament work, which is doing an important work of talking to our people about a very important subject. That type of behavior must never be promoted. We condemn it. It is irresponsible. And the Secretary General will have to go and find out as to what really happened. It can't be the EFF that disrupt a meeting that is supposed to achieve the expropriation of land without compensation. Worse, the ANC is not very far from the EFF. So we are not going to be drawn into some local boys politics. At the expense of such an important international question. You know, there are people who disrupt conferences, they are winning because they are just anarchists. That's what we saw yesterday. The ANC is in, the ANC came early. The EFF was in majority in Guyana, was in majority in Bembe, was in majority in Skukuni. The ANC, and I was so happy when I saw the ANC. And I laughed uncontrollably. I can't remember, I was driving with you. Look at what we are doing. We're giving this ANC sleepless nights. I bet the ANC, for it to occupy that hall, they have to be there at 5. Which means they left villages at 3. That's EFF for you. Making the ANC not to sleep. Literally. And then you see that as a problem. When you are doing your work so well, and then you go and disrupt yourself. There was an ANC person who came with a gun inside the hearing yesterday. That too must be condemned. You cannot have members of political parties going to the hearings carrying firearms. It must not be allowed. The subject is an emotional subject and it can cause tensions. So people must avoid bringing weapons. So the people of Polokwane yesterday, they were denied an opportunity to make an input on a very important subject. And you know, that thing is very easy, DP. As they speak, others get tired, they go outside, then you come in. It doesn't matter whether you speak late or you speak in the morning. Leadership must always be sober and decide. We are not an organization of anarchists. You know, after clicks, there are criminals here who are going around shops trying to intimidate owners of shops and all of that in the name of the EFF. When such matters are brought to our attention, we tell the owners of shops, arrest the bastard. If you've got the security, drop the bastard. Same time. There's no such a program of the EFF because we are not associated with such activities. No one should go and close any shop or any industry without being sanctioned by the EFF. We're not running a loose organization. Why did Polokwane do what they did yesterday? Why didn't they call their provincial leaders who were here with us or call the national leadership and seek advice as to what do we do because the hall is full? The ANC found the hall full in Guyana, Bembe, and Skukuni. They didn't do what the EFF did. So are they saying now to the ANC, when you find us in Waterberg or anywhere being many in the hall, you must disrupt us? Is that what they are saying to the ANC? That thing of public hearings, seats cannot be allocated according to political parties. It defeats the purpose. Seats are allocated on the basis of first come, first serve. Those who came late, they must stand outside. And I don't know why Bongo allowed that. He should have called police to reinforce, and we allow that program to continue. We will not tolerate anarchy, especially an activity that is not sanctioned by the leadership. Those who were leading that program in Polokwane, in the name of the EFF, must be ashamed of themselves. I don't know where the ENCA journalists come in when we speak about vulnerable workers of the farms. The court told you that you are not a vulnerable group. Journalists are not. We have no relationship with the ENCA. Let me tell you, if you walk out of this relationship, you must walk forever. We are not holding in. Check in, check out. Check in, check out. No. The ENCA has checked out. It's done. There's no journalist of the ENCA who's going to interview me, male or female. Doesn't matter. It's no female of the ENCA. Don't want to use the genuine struggle of women to want to undermine us. And to even send women to the EFF knowing very well that you've got this type of relationship with the EFF is to use women in your own corporate struggles. It's not struggles of those women. It's not of their own making that problem. Their bosses are the ones who took that decision. And when we ask you, my sister, go, it's not about women. It's about ENCA. You represent the ENCA. Once you are done, they know very well ENCA journalists. Once they are done, we meet anywhere and we relax together. There's absolutely no problem with journalists of the ENCA. Nothing. They are our sisters. They are our brothers. They are our comrades. They are fighting battles in that ENCA. We know that. So when we ask you to leave, it's not because you are a woman. So shouldn't we now ask ENCA women to leave? Because when we ask them to leave, we are going to be told you are fighting women. No. That is an overreach. Because ENCA DP is just going to bring women, a journalist and a woman camera person. And then what do? Hey, you can't ask them to go because you'll be undermining GBV. It's not GBV. It's a struggle against Johan Rupert. We don't want Rupert in our events. Why? Rupert left. We didn't chase Rupert away. Rupert left there in Nazareth. We are not that type, my sister, that walks in and out. In and out. You walk out there. Don't try and come back. It's done. Take your bags. We are trying to teach society to be like that. Especially if people want to be abusive and abuse us like that. We are very decisive. Out. It's done. They are not vulnerable. They are not a vulnerable group. We have nothing against our sisters who are working in ENCA. So they are more than welcome. They are our people. Those ones in Cape Town, they are even worse. Because they are in a worse situation there. The racism there in the ENCA in Cape Town is written from the toilet wall to everything. So we know what those people are suffering from. So those are not our problems. So Mbuyiseni apologized because he realized he was wrong. Our national chair spoke to him. I think the TG did, and many other people spoke to him. And when he made reflections, he took a decision that he's going to, apologize, which is an apology that everyone, was happy to receive. So that's our relationship with the ENCA. It's not going to change. It's not going to change. But if ENCA comes to court, if ENCA comes to parliament, if ENCA goes to Black Management Forum, it's not our space. It's not our terrain. And journalists come and they want to interview us, and the ENCA journalist is there. You can't say in other people's houses, hey, go. It's not our place. But exclusive EFF events, to go even when you are told you are not welcomed, is to invite problem. Is to really invite problem. It's actually provocation. It's a provocation. We don't know what this Cyril is going to say. Whether it's going to say we must dance again or we must not dance, because that we must dance, maybe it's coming to tell us to stop dancing. Because that people must dance during a pandemic. He says, go and dance. We are a bigger nation. Go and dance. People are dancing now. And we are dying. So, how do you say people must dance under these circumstances? So, we really do not expect anything from Cyril. All we want is South Africans to behave themselves. The economy is struggling. It's going through a difficult period. And if they do not behave, we'll be forced to go back to level 5, like other countries are doing. It will not be good for the economy. It will not be good for the emotions of South Africans. But if they continue to misbehave, we'll be left with no option but to call for level 5. This misbehavior we're observing all over the country is uncalled for. Well, EFF is targeting all the municipalities. We're going to invest resources there. We're going to win. And next year is going to be the beginning of ushering in the government of the EFF, which will benefit our people, both black and white, but more emphasis on the previously disadvantaged people. So that's who we are. That's what we're going to do. The final detail will be announced once we are done with our local government election strategy workshop. You know, the analysts call us terre-blanche and all of that, but they never call those people terre-blanche when they shot the court there. You know, when those Afrikaners went in there, behind the counter, there were 2 African females. They shot the glass. Behind that glass, there were 2 African females. I've never seen any of you profiling them. I've never seen any of you asking them to share their experiences. But if there were 2 white ladies behind that glass and the black people shot that glass, they will be in CNN. Because a black life is cheap. They will be in CNN. Whereas Begitele and Ayanda Dlolo go there, they don't go and speak to those 2 women. But if it was 2 white ladies, Begitele would have released his latest polished English, sending sympathy, you're very sorry, and all of that. Because it's a white person. That's how we live our life in this country. If it's a black person, you don't care. I'm the one who was sent to Begay. You see that woman there, says she's the one who was sitting behind the glass when the Boers were shooting. 2 unarmed African women. So, what is terre-blanche about that? Because terre-blanche is the one who went to disrupt the negotiations there. But also, that journalist of News 24 who says EFF people are carrying weapons, referring to a knobkiri and a golf stick, the whole day, they say, weapons, weapons, there are weapons here. This guy doesn't know the power of a firearm. That retired general of apartheid army, the one that Malema is so scared of, and said no one must go closer to those apartheid generals. If he takes out a gun and shoot at that knobkiri, between where you hold and that head, he shoot where the joint is, and the head falls off. It's no longer a knobkiri. It's just a stick, that thing. So people hold that against guns. You profile them as being armed. People hold a golf stick. You profile them as being armed. Because why? There was a desperation to project Africans as unreasonable people who are provoking white people. We were now looking like we are the ones who banned the van. We were looking like we are the ones who went to shoot the windows there, projected by a racist white journalist of News 24. Unashamedly, the whole day. He never made it his business to go on the other side to go and look what weapons were those people carrying. No, he's marking these ones. Because no black man must stand up to a white man. No black man must stand toe to toe with a white man. Sorry, that ended with our grandmothers, our ancestors, not in our turn now. It's not going to happen. And we don't fight white people. We don't, when we speak about this racist, terrorist thugs, and I said this point when I was addressing the fighters out there, this does not refer to ordinary white people who love this country, who want to see this country working. And there are a lot of them. And we know them and we live with them. So, it cannot be that you go and want to clap a white person because he's white. How different are you from the white terrorists and thugs which were there at Senegal, wanting to kill innocent black women? White people in this country of South Africa, they are more than welcome. It is their home. This is a home of everyone. Whereas those who say, let us share the wealth and the land, a lot of them are there. A lot of them are still farming in Zimbabwe and telling South Africans of their experiences in Zimbabwe, and they say, we are leasing the land in Zimbabwe and we are making money. Why do you say, I can't invest in the land I'm not owning? What do? I don't love the land, I love the money. So anything that makes me make money, I will do it. These are the white South Africans. Will you give me a long list? Because this equipment I'm going to buy to farm here is expensive. I'm going to put my money here. Will you give me the long list so that I can recover my money and make some profits? Once you give that guarantee, they don't have a problem. But these ones who say, no, there's no one here who's going to own the land here. We are the only ones who are going to own the land here. What are you going to do with the land? Look at how you have messed up this. Look at how you have messed up this to justify the racism of patterns of ownership in South Africa. So, any white man who gets offended when we talk about such things, then he's a racist himself. Then we are talking to you. I say to you, white men, if you are offended by what I'm saying, then the shoe fit, wear it. But when you stand up and say men are trash, all men are trash, I don't feel a single pain about that. You're not talking to me. You're not talking, I'm not offended. But I know that irresponsible men who commit a barbaric act, they compromise all of us. If they want society to stop saying men are trash, they must stop with their trash activities. But for as long as they are men amongst us who are doing wrong things, then we are all going to be judged with the standards of this men. So when they say men are trash, why are we not saying, but not all men, not all men. But when you say this racist in Senegal who are storming the courts, a white man says, not all whites. Hey, if it's not all white, keep quiet, we're not talking to you. Why are you talking? Keep quiet. They respond because they know we're talking to them. If they hate us because, but if they are not offended, side of white people who are going to farm with us here, they are white farmers who gave their workers portions of the land to farm for themselves. Those are the types of whites we want to live with in South Africa. They are white businessmen, genuinely, who gave their black employees shares and who give them dividends. Those are the white people who want to live with. But a white man who says a black man must stay in a shack without a toilet in his farm, that's a man who's going to have a problem with the EFF. I can tell you that. A white man who sits and say a black woman's hair is dry, that's the one who's not going to have peace in this country. But the rest, and there are many in their numbers, who are saying let's work together to build this country. This is our home. Don't be scared. You are not going anywhere. Yes, sir.
Thank you, President. So we'll go to the...
It's too hot in here.
Yeah, it's very hot.
You can open there.
Yes.
Yeah, but it affected the camera.
Yeah, we'll take questions in the room after this. But can we take the ones on WhatsApp for now, and then we'll come
No,
back?
let's deal with if there's a follow-up.
Okay. Yeah. Bauer had his hand up, and then we'll come to
We'll go to
Natasha, and then we'll go to Abongi. Sorry, can you switch on your mic? Yeah, we can't hear you.
Sorry.
Start from scratch, yeah?
Mr. Malema, apologies. I don't dispute the fact that every member of the EFF, you indeed yourself, every single citizen of South Africa has the right to protest wherever they see fit, provided they stay within the realms of the Constitution. So I don't fault the EFF for going there. You're within your rights doing so. I'm just wondering what the point is, because you weren't engaging with so-called white monopoly capital. You were engaging with a few fringe extremists, where the EFF almost came to blows with the farmer protesters that were gathered outside the Senekal court. What point was to be made by doing so, except to make a spectacle? It's not going to improve rural safety on farms. It's not going to improve the lot of farm workers. I understand the necessity on having your voice heard, but what is the point to jump into that arena with extremists? And once upon a time, just as a follow-up on your call for 60% South African employees in restaurants and businesses, once upon a time I interviewed you regarding xenophobia, and you said it's not African people from the rest of the continent, it's not their fault that they're here, they didn't open up the gates. So have you changed your tune slightly? I mean, Africans from the rest of the continent, they're still welcome here, but they shouldn't prevent South Africans from working. Is that essentially what you're saying now? Thank you.
No, that's not what we are saying. All of Africans are welcomed here and they must work here. So you're right. I'm still saying the same thing. It is not their fault that they are working. It is the fault of the white man who employs them and exclude us with an intention to divide us. Because after employing them, the white man comes to us and says, you are unemployed because of Zimbabweans. Because that divide and rule strategy has worked for them. So what we are saying is that leave the employees alone. Let's go to the white man and ask the question, why did you hire all Zimbabweans when we are here and unemployed? What type of employment strategy is this? There is no any Zimbabwean we are going to talk to. There is no any Malawian or anyone we are going to talk to. This is their home. They must come here. They must work. But they must work with us. Because they get employed, they get exploited. Because they have no rights. Some of them don't even have permits. It works in the favor of the exploitative white capital. So that's a confrontation with capital. It's not a confrontation with our own. No one of the EFF is going to speak to any worker. We are going to speak to the white man that you are dividing us, you are contributing to the high unemployment in South Africa, but also you are doing so because you want to exploit these workers with no rights. They can't join union. When they speak, you threaten them with police. So when you mix South Africans with our African brothers and sisters, then our African and brothers and sisters, they are guaranteed of their rights, their safety, and better salaries, because South Africans will never accept mediocre salaries from any employee. So you cannot have salaries for South Africans and have salaries for Africans. So whatever you are going to give South Africans, you'll have to give Africans. So it is to the benefit of our African brothers and sisters. So there is no changing of anything here. I've always said they must come here, they must work with us. To exclude South Africans from employment by white capital is to make South Africans hate Africans, and through that hatred, Africans will remain permanently divided, and it works for white capital. That's why when we go to Creamy in a Mall of Africa, Creamy restaurant in Mall of Africa, will demand to speak to the owner and the management. Will not speak to the employees. They have nothing to say to us. They didn't employ themselves. They didn't force themselves on the jobs. They never said to any white owner and white manager, expel South Africans so that we work alone here. It is these whites, through their strategy of divide and rule, who excluded us and employed only our brothers and exploit them and not pay them properly. The same thing in the farms. No IDs in the farms. The people work there, they don't have IDs, they don't have anything. They don't get paid. In Cape Town, in Western Cape, sometimes they are paid with a bottle of wine. And they are foreigners. They have no rights. They cannot go anywhere to complain. There is no community that can be behind them, because the same community says, yeah, you took our jobs. But when they are together with the South African community, it will not be easy for anyone to exploit them. My brother, every little racism, everywhere where it raises its ugly head, we are going to beat it on top of its head with a knobkir. We don't care whether it's a white extremist or anything, or that one of Durban who swear at police and called them the kafirs, and then she got arrested. Yeah, that white lady. Whether it's one person, whether it's a group, whether it's a white monopoly capital, it is our business. Everywhere where there is a display of whiteness and white arrogance, you'll find us. That's what we went to do. And what happened? After we left, the arrogance disappeared. They never went back there. They came there, they were singing. There were others who were singing at night, SG, preparing for us. Here come the boere, here come the boere, here come the boere, here come the boere. And when the EFF arrived, the boere went down, started praying. The here come the boere went through the window. We dealt with here come the boere, humbled it. That's why the boere will never be happy with us. But it is not just ordinary whites, those people. They are farm owners. They are farm owners. So they are in the category of white monopoly capital that exploit our people. They exploit our people, and we had to confront them. We had to teach even those black people there in their farms that these people do not represent Jesus Christ. They can be confronted. But through these types of engagement from time to time, we are also, educating an African child that there is nothing special about these people. We are all human beings. And when they are wrong, they must be confronted and be told they are wrong.
Okay, Natasha, you can go.
Just the last one from me. Perhaps the EFF stance on the letters of termination of SABC employees and the plans by the SABC board of restructuring the organization. Thank you.
We are opposed to retrenchment of workers there at the SABC, because what they do, they go look for some old, not even a misconduct, something that looks like a misconduct, and then they say to you, why shouldn't we charge you? you claimed 8 hours of overtime, blah, blah. Then they club them together so that they can achieve that target they wanted to achieve with the intended retrenchment. So now they are doing it through other means. We don't want that. We oppose that. And we are with the workers. They must find the money. And they must finance that SABC to work properly. And it must work objectively, particularly SABC News. And not create an ENCA light like we see now. With some people who come from ENCA and think that because there are some seniors there, they can bring some ENCA light. We know what SABC is. You know, if I was in power, I would have put Sophie Mukwena there to be a news editor and run the news. They don't know news, those people who came from ENCA. If they know news, they know news of white people. They don't know our news. Sophie ka betela di news uko ka re wa gafa. I bet Sophie, I bet production o sa morate. A supporta Thabo Mbeki a mo project amor. A bet le camera o tso Sophie o lata le cameraman a re ibe ithinye so if how ratile Sophie, she knows news, that woman. How you go and fetch people who don't know news, who don't know the SABC, who don't know the basic principles of right of reply? When they interview Habib insulting the EFF, they don't even go and look for the EFF. They still go and play the same clip. People like Sophia and the people who know that institution will tell you that you can't do that. So Sophie must not call me and say, I'm putting her in trouble. They don't like her anyway. So whether I said this or I didn't say it, it doesn't change anything. But if we want news and quality news, the SABC has got its own people who can give the SABC proper quality. And that proper quality will attract viewership, and that viewership will attract adverts, and money will be made at the SABC. This factional arrangements of hijacking the SABC by CR17 to make it an ENCA light, it will not last, I can tell you. It will crash the same way Cloudy crashed of Zuma. Don't factionalize the SABC. It belongs to the people. It's not a state broadcast. It's a public broadcaster. I think they must know the difference between the state broadcaster and the public broadcaster. The public broadcaster must broadcast in the best interest of the public, not of the state. But what we see now is the state broadcaster that broadcast in the interest of the state, led by Cyril Ramaphosa. When you go back there with your cameras, you must tell them that we have been here and we fought battles at the SABC and we have never lost one. And if they want a battle, they will find it. They must ask those who came before them. They must ask Sunuki Zigalala, who's now masquerading as a veteran there at the ANC and fighting factional battles. They must ask Claudi. They must ask that one who was a head of news, a right-hand man of Claudi, Jimmy. They must ask them, where are they now? They are watching SABC News like all of us. The same will happen to this one who want to factionalize the SABC. I'm deliberately not calling their names because I want them to change their conduct. If they don't, we will name them and will make them a subject of assault. And they know what I mean when I say subject of assault. I don't want to hear a fool here saying he's threatening us with violence and he's talking assault. Assault is a political assault. We assaulted those who came before them, yet there was no blood. Yes, sir. Are we going to the gadgets now?
No, we have one more hand.
We are with the workers of SABC. If they want someone, when they go to the streets, they must just shout. We are here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Malema. The DP spoke to Natasha over the weekend on the issue of Ranjeni Monusema. I'm going to take you back a little bit to her. And then he said that you might even go to the extent of going to the public protector and the Public Service Commission to find out that is the appointment of Ranjeni Munsami as legit as it should be. Now, I did read somewhere Tito Mboweni, the finance minister, saying that it's actually his prerogative to decide who he appoints. It's actually in the ministerial handbook that he's actually allowed to do so. So my question is, would be, for what he has said with DP, Mr. Shivambu, would it not be fruitless then of you guys to waste your time and go to the PP and the PSC in trying to reverse this appointment? Ranjeni Munsami. Thank you.
No, we're weighing our options. PP is but one of those options, because Ranjeni may not be qualified to even occupy that office with the allegations that are made at the state capture inquiry. It might be something that Temberger will have to research deep into his books to justify his title of senior counsel. If this woman indeed qualifies to be appointed at that level, given the serious allegations that were made at the state capture inquiry. Yeah.
Sorry, just one question. Sorry, just one question. I forgot to ask you this. In terms of the political funding bill, was this something that was discussed by the CCT, given what Paul Mashatile said regarding asking for more money, an increase in political party funding? I don't know what I'm saying now.
We agree with Paul wholeheartedly because we think that there shouldn't be actually any form of funding that is allowed from the private sector because it opens a room for hijacking. But the timing is wrong. People are hungry now. People are looking for the basic things. And therefore, any money that we can find, let's go and reinvest it in the pockets of poor people. So if money is found deep here and it can increase 350, let's go and increase 350 instead of giving political parties. But we agree, when the money is there, when our economy is back again and is growing, is creating employment, is reducing poverty, indeed, let's scrap completely private funding. In that way, we'll not have a capture in advance of political parties. But for now, it is not allowed. But because the situation is not allowing now, perhaps what we can do in the immediate TG is to demand that the disclosure amounts be increased. And we'll also look into how do we deal with the disclosure of those who don't want to be publicized, because not because they are committing crime. Others don't want unnecessary fame. They don't want to be associated. They just want to support their democracy quietly, and they just want to support their political parties quietly. But now when you say they must be disclosed, and or they say, you see now, I'm going to become a celebrity and I don't want to become that. I want to become a businessman. I don't want to become part of those type of things. It's matters we are looking into. We think Paul is raising genuine points. The timing may not be correct because any increase to political parties now will cause a serious crisis in our community. If there is anything that must be increased now, is budgets for food parcels, budgets for any form of relief. We want government to pay the people who did the PPEs who are cleared by SIU, especially here in Gauteng. 200 companies are cleared. They say there's nothing wrong. Government is withholding their money, it's not paying them. It's as if when you do PPE, you are inherently corrupt, even when you have not done any corruption. Anyone who has done wrong, lock them up, send them to jail. But don't project all of black business as corrupt. Everyone who does business, who is black, who's successful, is being projected as being corrupt. No, that we don't agree with. Where there is corruption, let's act on it. And let's act on it when we are ready with facts and evidence. And we don't want Hollywood style. Hollywood style is not facts. Bulelani Ncuka must know that. He says those who say they don't want Hollywood style, they are scared because they are corrupt. We are not scared of Bulelani Ncuka. We are not scared of him. We know him, that he is the one who's driving that NPA now. We know him. We know that he is the one that runs from the back door that institution, and then he comes here, he thinks he can threaten us. He will threaten those corrupt ANC people, not us. He will never threaten us. We are not Zuma. Him and that spokesperson of the NPA, Sipongwenya, Ngwema. Yes. The ball boy of Bulelani Ncuka. We are not scared of them. We have nothing to hide. Don't arrest people Hollywood style. What happens the day they are cleared? Let's take Edwin Sodi, for instance. I hold no brief from Edwin Sodi. I don't know the guy like that. He gets out of office there, police with handcuffs and all of that. When he gets cleared by the court, what happens to that video? What happened to that humiliation? We cannot do that. We must do that to the hardcore criminals who are flight risk, who are refusing to cooperate with the police. But if a black man cooperates with the police, treat them with respect and dignity. We don't want that. And it doesn't make us corrupt, because every time you defend principle, they say they are corrupt. You can say that. History will absolve us. It starts like that with a Hollywood style. Then there's going to be beating by the state. Later on, there's going to be killing. We must stop it before it becomes worse. Edwin Sodi has been cooperating with Zondo Commission. Why don't you use the same method? When he goes to Zondo Commission to read a list of people he gave money, he's not handcuffed. To show that he's cooperating, he goes on his own. Why not use the same thing to call him to Bloemfontein? You'll still get him. So that's what we're saying. Black people who are in business are not corrupt. They're not. Those who are corrupt, they must be arrested. But also, why is the face of corruption black, whereas corporate wealth is owned by white? Because business means private sector, and private sector is white. Yet we don't see white people being arrested from the private sector that is corrupt. Why? Black business is not corrupt. Black people are not inherently corrupt, and we are going to defend them. And those who are corrupt, we will never defend them. Will support the taking of such people to prison. Edwin Sodi is in jail. Out of jail, is answering his questions there. If found guilty, let him go to jail. We have nothing to do with him. Anyone who's being arrested, found guilty, sent to jail. Mataje prison, die in Venda. Send them. Useless. But don't create an impression that black means inherently corrupt. I want to make the last point on this issue. That man of Mooikloof, his things gets approved without a BEE certificate, without being BEE compliant. The president goes and launch a project that is not BEE compliant. There's no problem. If it was a black man who was launched by the president with something not being compliant, yes, we'll be knowing the stakazelo of that black man. We'll be knowing where he was born. We will know the parents of that black man. We will know the nyatzis and everything of the black man. We will know the address. We will know whether he passed woodwork or not from school. Everything of a black man. Because he's black and he's inherently corrupt. And we must tolerate that. And these black business people who are fools continue to give the ANC money that projects them as being corrupt. Because it's the ANC that allows this nonsense. Now they say procurement of PPE is emergency. After procuring emergency things, they don't want to pay people even when people have complied. When you check this list of 200 companies, are black young people with young black women included. Some of them had to provide those PPEs urgently for schools. They had to rebond their houses. They had to put their cars as sureties. You refuse to pay, they are going to lose all of that because of a mess which is not of their own making. Mara lebona, when they finish getting paid that money, hey, asina valo ANC, vonyo money, the same ANC that puts them into trouble. The same black business that ANC projects them as being corrupt. The Communist Party has got a name called tenderpreneurs for black people who are involved in business with government. But they don't have a name for white people who are doing business with government. They always coin names for black people. They never coined a name for white people who are doing business with government. When you do business with government, you are called a tenderpreneur, and you are black and you are inherently corrupt. It's an absolute nonsense, which must be confronted. Don't be threatened by Bulelani Nuka or Zondo. Hey, Zondo is looking for your bank statement in an attempt to silence me. Zondo didn't have to go and look for my statement from the banks. He should have called me. I'm readily available here. Even these banks have got electronic. I download it here and WhatsApp him that statement. You will not find anything. You will find negative, positive, negative, bounce.
Thank you, President. Let's go to, okay. It's the last one in the house.
The last one for me. Sorry. Speaking about the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, breaking news has just come in saying that Minister Pravin Gordhan will be cross-examined by Tom Moyani on Friday at the State Capture Commission. If you could just kindly react to that, please.
After we wrote a letter to Zondo and said, why are you treating Pravin differently from how you are treating Zuma? Treat them the same. You have never called a press conference to address us about Pravin when Pravin told you in the morning, sorry, I'm not coming, I'm going to work. Cabinet, that's where Pravin works. Zondo didn't have harsh words for Pravin because Pravin is a darling. Pravin controls the investigating and the leading person there. What do they call this title? Evidence leader. Those things of evidence leaders and all that. Evidence leader and those investigating people must know that Pravin tried us long time ago. They won't get anywhere. Will never be threatened by Zondo Commission. Will never be threatened by NPA, whether under Bulelano or Sipongwema or anyone. Nothing. It's a war. It's a battle we'll fight to the grave. We are not in the ANC where they are scared. You can't take them on. They will arrest you. They will arrest you. They will arrest you because you are stealing. We take them on every day because we have nothing to hide. And you still say we have something to hide. If we have something to hide, why are these people not finishing us off? Let's go to the computer, Chief.
Okay, Commissioner Tambo, please read us 2 questions from the computer.
So, Andy Swamakinana from the Sunday Times and Times Live asks, the ANC has also indicated an interest in SA having one single election. Are you guys talking to each other about this? What steps has the EFF taken in ensuring there's a single election? And do you propose that the current term of the local government administration be extended to 2024? Or from when would you like this single election regime to begin? And then Brighton Ngube from Asaki Online in Zimbabwe asks, what is the role of the AU and Sadek in solving African problems, and where is it missing and what should be done?
Well, AU and Sadek is a club of gentlemen who go there and pose for pictures after using our resources and then go back home. There is nothing tangible and clear coming out of those 2 institutions. They don't call each other to order. They don't condemn each other. I mean, Zimbabwe shouldn't be what it is. Zimbabwe has got huge potential. But Zimbabwe has collapsed because a group of gentlemen are unable to prevail on each other. We need Sadek and AU with teeth, and it must bite. It must be able to tell Zimbabwean government, Nigerian government, and all of those who don't respect human rights, that if you do not respect human rights and continue to violate them, the first step will be to terminate, if not suspend, your membership of these structures. These structures must call people who subscribe to democratic principles. Only those countries that subscribe to democratic principles must affiliate to those structures. Things like Swaziland shouldn't be allowed in AU and Sadek because of that monarchy, the way they are running affairs there. But because it's an organization of gentlemen, it's not revolutionary structures, they are useless. The other one was? No, ANC, we wrote a letter to them. We asked for a meeting so that we can work on a joint approach. And we even proposed, if the Sunday Times journalist was not busy with Praveen, he would have heard that we propose that next year elections must be postponed and all of the elections must be held in 2024 so that we allow a situation where we synchronize all of these elections. So that's what we want.
Give us another two, please, Commissar.
Sophie Mukwena, a foreign editor at the CIC, asks, the WHO guidelines on gatherings are clear. Why can't the EFF distribute masks and sanitizers since political parties always distribute T-shirts? And the first question was addressed slightly, but Sipho Mabena from the Citizen asks, could the EFF leaders, Julius Malema, keep us abreast on the developments with regards to the reports of state capture inquiry issuing banks with subpoenas to provide all of Malema's financial records, his wife and his late grandmother, as well as those of his deputy, Floyd Shibambu? Did they follow up on the reports? Have they heard from the commission of the banks? And did this come up during your CCT deliberations?
Well, we briefed the CCT about those things. We didn't receive anything from Zondo Commission. I spoke to the secretary of the Zondo Commission who said they are investigating as to where are these leaks coming from. So there's nothing. They didn't give us anything. And we are saying, if they need anything, we are here. We have no problem to cooperate with the Zondo Commission. We were actually even, I offered that secretary of the commission that I can come on the 14th of December alone. No lawyer, no nothing, to ask me a question about anything. I have nothing to hide. Why would someone like a journalist be so interested in my statements when my statements were displayed all over newspapers by Johan van Lochenbeck, leaking them to journalists during my SARS stories? So what is exciting about that? Because those statements that were leaked, nothing exchanged except the salary of parliament. So there's nothing exciting coming from my statement, my grandmother's statement, my wife's statement, my son's statement. Anyone you want the statement of, I can line them up there, you get their statement. I have nothing to hide, nothing. But they are not looking for the statement, these crooks. They want to create doubt and leave us with a dark cloud and not be called at Zondo Commission. I told the secretary of the Zondo Commission that you are either going to clarify this or you are going to invite us to the commission. You are not going to leave us with a dark cloud hanging that Zondo wants us for our statement. And that Zondo, he does not even say anything with that very white voice arrangement to clarify what he wants from us. But if it was Praveen, he was going to be going like, yeah, you know, yeah. But when it's us, he's got nothing to say. We can't have judges that operate like that. I don't need a lawyer. If you want to ask me about anything, I I've answered everything, not only to the media, to the authorities. So why must I go and just give lawyers money? For what? Sometimes they even speak there, they don't speak properly. We speak better than them. You are misrepresenting a gown. You can pull him with the gown or I sit down. Let me talk now. So why must I get a lawyer to the Zondo Commission? I will go on my own. Zondo can ask me anything. He must not ask me about those things of section, what in the act. I don't know those things. Ask me about me and my statements. Ask me about my grandmother's statement. My wife will answer for herself. She's still alive. I will answer for my grandmother. I answer for everything for her. She's no more. She can't answer for herself. Bring that to me about my grandmother. I will answer for her. I represent her interests. So anything you want from me or my grandmother, ask me. Zondo can ask me. The Hawks can ask me. NPA can ask me. Anyone. They are more than welcome. What was the other one? She's, you see, Sophie, when I told you she's very active. She just came with a suggestion. Thank you for the suggestion, Sophie.
Sure. Commissioner Tambo, I think it's President safe to say last two. Yeah. The last two questions. Okay, that's fine. You'll be the last one. Unless you want to follow up.
It's just something that just happened now.
Okay, just shoot.
Well, I knew about it that there were people in the cells, 5 of them, and it looks like it is going to be interesting as we go along because there is a link between those people and some of the people who were there in the house who for a very long time have been denying their involvement. It's at a very early stage, but we hope it's genuine and it's real because this matter has taken us for far too long. And we hope it's not just a posture. So if it's genuine, it's a welcome development. And we hope that we'll put this matter to rest. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Last two, Commissioner.
Andy Makinana, again, Sunday Times and Times Live, is asking the DA is electing new leadership this coming weekend. Do you have any view on what happens in that party and specifically as it relates to their upcoming Congress? And then Sipo Mapena asks, from the citizen, what is the EFF's response or take on over 800 state-owned farms being released for the public, particularly on the backdrop of reports that it appears that bribery and corruption in the department could result in the land being used to financially benefit the ANC elite and obtain support for the ruling party?
The land must be released and all citizens of South Africa who qualify must get the land. And then where there is bribery, let it be reported. Again, even before the land issue is engaged, there is some, spreading of bribery and exchange of money and all of that, so that when it ultimately happens, no, it's corruption to undermine the same land question. Let's not brush everything with the same brush. Let's isolate incidences of corruption. Let's deal with them. When you are scared to isolate those, bring them to us. We'll take those issues up and we'll pursue those people and make sure that we bring them to book. So let's not generalize. This is a very important program. In the immediate, let the land be given to the people. But that is not the lasting solution. The lasting solution is expropriation of land without compensation. That one is by the way. It's not what we're fighting for. Second one? They must go die, those ones. They must go and declare that thing finished, dead. Because DA is now competing with those Freedom Front for those racist votes which we saw in Senegal. That's why the madam came there, Helen, herself, to come and be with those racist terrorists. because they are desperate for those votes. They lost them to Freedom Front. White people, black people in DA, they're being flushed out unashamedly. You know, there is a lady here of DA in Joburg who's expelled because she's giving me information. And I don't know that lady. I don't know that. I've never spoken to her. And I can take my gadget and avail the gadgets of all these leaders of the EFF. Okay, to go and check if any of us communicated with that woman. We've never spoken to her. I don't know her. I saw a headline that says a person is expelled because she gave Malema information of the DA. No, the person who gives me the information of the DA is white. It's not a black person. So I'm dealing with whites who are concerned there in the DA that this thing is becoming purely racist, and they are not racist. Some of them, I gave them forms, so I hope they will come soon. Very prominent whites of the DA. So there's nothing to expect from this conference except a consolidation of a racist policy. Because Madam came there cited with the racist, even when it was too hot there, you could see the buttocks of the madam shining and shining. It couldn't even be protected by sunscreen, but the madam had to sit there because she wants the votes of those racists. So that's what they are. They are consolidating a racist vote. And they are going to a conference to consolidate the racist vote. So we don't care about what the DA wants. Mazoni says he is opening a case against Mbuyiseni because there is wildfire in Free State. Wildfires in Free State, which is something that happens from time to time in the farms. That's why in the farms we do those things of fire breakers, because we know a fire can start here anytime. It's hot, it's windy, fire can start. That racist forgets all small details that goes with farming. She just sees black people. When she says the farms are burning because of Mbuyiseni, she is saying the farms are burned by black people. That's what she's saying. They cannot hide their racism anymore. Because why would Mbuyiseni send white people to go and burn the farms of white people? But she doesn't know that we don't want a land that is burned. We want a fertile land. We want a land that will be used with immediate effect. And why would we burn the land? You will never accuse the EFF of burning the land. You can accuse us of having occupied the land. That is a charge we are prepared to accept. Because very soon, if there is no progress, we may have to start occupying these farms because there's no movement. We need movement on the program of expropriation of land without compensation. So these occupations we are doing, we are just shooting the warning shots. We actually want the real thing. So you don't want your farm to be occupied, share it with black people, share it with black workers. Because that's where we're going. There's no way we're going to spend another 20 years without black people in farms, without black people in industries, without black people in the strategic sectors of our economy. No, it's not going to happen. Where we celebrate 50 years of democracy and we are still where we are, then we would have failed as a generation. We need a radical program which will give our people the wealth of this country, ready to share with any white man who sees black people as the original owners of the land, not as foreigners in their own land. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President. That brings us to the end of our program. Colleagues, it was good to see you back in action physically. President, thank you very much. Okay, can we go off our social media? The sound.